Hi everyone, welcome to the Techstars Startup Weekend Women Dublin online networking events. We usually host this event to get women founders, a space to connect and share experience and learning from each other. And this is the agenda for today. We have upcoming events coming up. We have a Techstars Startup Weekend Women Dublin that it's coming up on the 24th to 26th of March. We host these events every year. In the last weekend of March, we host our first one last year. We look forward to host again this year. And we'll just a space for women who have idea. Actually, this year we'll try to open it up. Even men can join us and who have idea, especially in the social impact space, to come and experience what startup life is all about and how to take their idea from their head to put it in business model Canva and pitch and in front of judges. So the weekend will be a fun a weekend to remember experience. So if you know anybody who will be interested in this, pass them along the information. Marcella will share it on chat, the link to register, and this what's all the weekend will be about. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Eshna. And I know I won't do a justice for me to introduce her. And please, Eshna, take it over and introduce yourself. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Leila. Thank you, Marcella, for inviting me over here in this lovely group. And I see Lauren and a couple of familiar faces, so it's kind of not an absolutely new space. I do see a lot of familiar faces. So for people who do not know me yet, hi everyone, I'm Eshna, the Program Manager at Republic of Work and the Regional Lead for NDRC. And today we'll be diving straight into where your focus needs to be as an early stage founder and help you navigate the ecosystem. Before we dive deep into the session, a bit about Republic of Work. We are Cork's largest co-working space and innovation hub, and have over 120 companies in our network and more than 250 members. And at Republic of Work, we are proactively developing our relationships with our members and inspiring positive change within our community. We are also delighted to announce that we've expanded into regional town and county Tipperary, where we are currently working with regional bodies to build on the local ecosystem. So post the lockdown, we've welcomed over 18,000 people, both virtually and physically, from our online event and virtual meetups, as well as our day-to-day hot deskers and long-term members such as SOSV and Shopify. And we've kind of welcomed a blend of industries with the members from the likes of Airbnb, Sisu Clinic, as well as Blink Innovation. The past 2 years saw companies based within Row raise over 10 million euros, creating over 1,000 jobs. The ecosystem in the Southeast is thriving. Companies such as Kielvar, they've raised over 23 million. Wall Street did their Series A just towards the end of last year, and they did around 12.8 million, as well as TrustApp and LegitFit. They finished their seed fund round with 3.4 million, as well as 1.1 million. And companies such as We O'Reilly successfully closed their crowd funding campaign and went from strength to strength, building great partnerships with some of the leaders, corporate leaders in the country. So when you're starting out, it can seem pretty overwhelming as you're quite early in the stages of figuring out what kind of steps to take to build a successful business. Also, the headlines these days aren't great either. We've heard all about the fundraising getting much harder. Valuations are all-time down. The customers are cutting costs. And all in all, the ecosystem is in conservation zone. It's scary, but then it's always been scary. Did you know that 90% of the startups fail? And these are some of the stats from the ecosystem in the States. And only 1% get to an exit of 50 million or over. And we all know them as unicorns. And two of the leading reasons why startups fail are not having enough demand or not having a market need and then running out of money. So not really having a good financial runway. But the fact remains that quite a few Irish startups have done well, especially with some of the VCs, accelerators, and networks around have done fairly well. Let's not fret about it as founders. Here are a few tips that can help you leverage and navigate the ecosystem. So startups often represent giant experiments where you have hypotheses and validation involved. So let's get started with the ideation phase. So first things first, you have an idea. This could be an app, a service, a piece of tech, anything. But it needs to have a problem solution angle. And it should be solving either an existing problem or there should be a quality problem that you're looking at. So when you're defining problems, think about things like, is it informative? Does it shine light on what people need and want? And the other thing is, are you motivated enough to take it to the next step? So look at things like, are you phrasing it correctly in a way that it will stick, in a way that people would understand, as well as have some observations around it. So one way to work around is to pick up the customer you want to serve and figure out what the problem is that they have, to come up with a solution and then figure out who needs it, as opposed to, come up with a solution and then figure out who needs it. So problem solution definition is not one-time event. It's an ongoing process. It's an iterative process, since circumstances and needs are always changing. So next up is the customer discovery, which is a huge part of the process of starting up. So to reach out to your customers, you'll need to know who they are. The first step would be to define a target segment and learn everything about them. So how do you go about defining your target audience? Involves understanding every potential customer there could be out there in the market, segmenting them and prioritizing those customers. So you'll need to develop things like customer persona. So to give you an example, customer persona is kind of like a semi-fictional person, representation of your ideal customer. So it relates to a person. So you'll have characteristics and real data attached to this customer persona. So you'll have all the relevant information about them. What job do they do? What, higher, like in the corporate or like in the world where you're solving this problem, what, like, do they hold decision-making power or not? The personal demographics and their background. So you'll need all of this data to create your persona. And some tools over here that we swear by includes the MOM test and the Entrepreneur's Guide to Customer Development. So you can kind of dive deeper to figure out like what questions to ask and how to go about it. And moving on to the third step, this would now include validating your hypothesis. So it's important to focus on validating whatever you've hypothesized in the first two steps. This means testing out the idea on real users. This means getting out of the building and getting feedback from the market on what you intend in building. And this can be done in several ways. This can be customer interviews or surveys, visual presentations, a storyboard, a wireframe, it could be a prototype or even a landing page. So it's important to understand if people even need what you're providing and if people are willing to pay for it. So you should be able to justify by this point why your customers should use the product, who are they, and what is the problem that you're trying to solve at the end of this phase. So once you've validated the idea and know what you have, that you have a market need, the next step would be building out a prototype, or this can be done by setting up a minimum viable product known as the MVP. And the goal is to create a very basic, clunky version of the product, which has some of the features or the core features and showcases how it solves the problem that you've hypothesized or the problem that you've mentioned. And now that you have heard me use the word validation quite a lot, validating your idea, validating your customer personas, validating your product, as well as the prototype is all a part or is all the key to success. So this means you need to be ready to get some core feedback on your product, on your idea, and you have to be open to criticism at some point as well to be able to pivot and replan. These were some of the things to get you started and help you with taking the next step. And as ecosystem builders, we are always here to help, but it's important for you to know what's out there in the ecosystem and understand the way it can help you as well. The Irish ecosystem supports startup founders at every step of their entrepreneurial journey. It is a great place to be for founders, as it's filled with organizations and networks and people who are eager to help you out and support you through your journey. As you can see in this lovely map of Ireland, we have support running all throughout, from the north to the southernmost tip of the southernmost tip of the ecosystem. One of the various initiatives happening around the country is the First Fridays for Startups, which is hosted by the Irish Tech Hub Network, and it'll be kicking off in this March. So if you want some more information, follow the NDRC, the First Fridays, for all the updates on the ecosystem. We also are hosting the Teamwork Catalyst Accelerator program here in Cork. It was launched by Dan and Peter, the founders of Teamwork, back in 2017 to give back to the Cork ecosystem and to make sure the journey of SaaS startups was as easy as it could be. So the applications for the 5th cohort will be opening soon towards the end of this month. So you can always log on to www.republicofwork.com or just write to me. Some of the other interesting programs in the ecosystem include the Ignite program, which is an incubation program for founders working full-time on their startup, as well as the Excel program, which is designed, which is based out of Rubicon here in Cork and designed for female entrepreneurs. And the New Frontiers program is a great program for anyone based out across the country. It's funded by Enterprise Ireland to help you go from idea stage to scaling up your company. And talking a bit more about the ecosystem that there is, the NDRC, which is kind of like the core and the backbone of the Irish ecosystem. So in 2020, Dogpatch Labs, in consortium with a number of regional hubs, won the NDRC contract to deliver Ireland's National Equity Accelerator and non-equity pre-accelerator programs. So our mission here is to help startups succeed at every point of their journey through coaching, mentoring, with a founder-first approach delivered by international experts. It is delivered by innovation hubs across the country through a partnership with Republic of Work, Photoshed, and RDI Hub. And each of these hubs interact with local bodies, universities, and incubators to bring about support through the length and breadth of the country. So we have a development pathway at NDRC. Office hours is a great place to start to brainstorm your idea with one of our mentors, get some good advice on the starting points of your business. And if you've been to an office hour before, give us a cheer here in the chat. Then we move on to the Founder Weekend. This happens once in every quarter. So to help you explore your idea, go from idea to actually something much more like a value prop, we give you early feedback through an intense weekend sprint. So next on, we have the Pre-Accelerator program, which is a 6 weeks intensive program that helps you go from customer journey to customer discovery journey to being accelerator revenue ready. We also have the Accelerator program, and I see Lauren in the audience. She can probably hop in later on and talk a bit about it as well. But the Accelerator program, it's tailor-made 3 to 6 months program that provides founders with up to 100K safe investment, as well as a host of other resources like mentorship, office hours, office space, access to the alumni network. So these programs really help founders get connected to the local as well as the global ecosystem. We also have designed a series of masterclasses to involve and educate the wider ecosystem to help you build on your journey. As much as there are private and public-private partnership happening in the ecosystem. We also have a lot of government-led initiatives. So government have been quite active in participating in the Irish ecosystem. So from grant aids to loans and mentoring, Irish government works hands-on and has developed many supports to accelerate your journey further. So always be sure to reach out to your local enterprise office and learn about the grants and eligibility to apply for them, such as the feasibility grant or trading online voucher, or even priming grant. The business innovation centers across the country, as well as Leo, they offer free mentoring sessions. So get some advice from, get some of these, access to some of these supports. And some of the other ones to mention out is the Pre-Seed Start Fund, which has been launched by the Enterprise Ireland last year, as well as the Microfinance Ireland, and some of the other aids that have been that are being provided by the government. Now, I feel at this point I've been talking a lot, and you'd probably you've gotten a good idea of like how do you go about navigating the ecosystem and how to get started. But the key is to keep going and keep your momentum going. There are a lot of supports out there to help you get started. The ecosystem is right here to help you and guide you. So take the next step, go build that wonderful product, keep learning and growing, and always remember to be passionate about the customer problem, and everything else will come together. Stay focused and resilient. Don't forget to look for the silver lining, even in the dark and gloomy times that we might have right now. I'll open up to some questions now.
Thank you so much, Eshna. That was great overview of the ecosystem and where founders can find help. So thank you so much.